Good morning. It is Tuesday, February 21st, 2023. I'm Pearson Bowen. This is the CBC Morning Report. Local authorities have taken a major step geared at arresting youth deviance and laying a foundation for community empowerment. It comes in the form of a centre management committee. Installed over the weekend, Youth Minister Charles Griffith says the team will be integral in ensuring community centres across the island are used often and that they become a space for youth to engage in positive and wholesome activities.
Centre management committees will be made up of 9 individuals. You have a chairman, a deputy chair, 5 community members, a member of a youth and community group drawn from the area where the centre management committees will exist, and you have a member from the community development department being involved in the process. And we felt that that was the adequate number to engage in this activity to bring about change at community level.
The minister also envisions the committee will assist in rekindling the community spirit across the island.
At some point in time this year, we hope to launch a best community project. It is called something else by the ministry. I think it is called Pride. But this is one of the things that at the 4 locations that will see the centre management committees, that you can take lead and you can be the ones who promote this at the level, because this is again about empowering community.
Barbados has lots of potential as a global tourism leader once it diversifies its product offerings to passengers. The perspective of Chief Executive Officer of the Barbados Tourism Marketing Incorporated, Jens Trenhart. Speaking during the estimates, he said a lot must be done to broaden the product scope, and according to him, they have been using digital platforms, local celebrities and other means, but sustainability is at the core of it all.
Reduce seasonality and make Barbados known to the world. There are various initiatives that we can leverage to do that. On one hand, having guests and residents share their experiences on island via social media that builds a content cloud. On the other hand, leveraging orange economy and film, collaborative campaigns with the private sector, and also leveraging Bajan celebrities. However, coming out of the pandemic, sustainability needs to be a core part of our strategy, and with that, creating a resilient destination, because I think we can all be sure that this won't be the last crisis.
The Chief Executive Officer of the BTMI also said that in the cruise sector, they are moving away from cruise stops to more home porting filled with local experiences.
And that's obviously a big opportunity to increase cruise passenger spending on island. By creating this consumer demand, we see that there's a lot of opportunities to create new products and new services. Having said though, Barbados is blessed with having a lot of products and services already here that is very hard for other destinations to build, very quickly. I'm talking about sports, from cricket to golf to surfing to sailing to horse riding to even motorsport. Events and festivals, we have Crop Over, we have Food and Rum, we have Run Barbados, and also we're partnering with a lot of other entities to bring events and sporting events and festivals here.
The Ministry of Education, Technological and Vocational Training is informing staff, parents and guardians of the Blackman and Gollop Primary and the Tamabari Nursery Schools that classes for these 2 schools will be conducted online today and tomorrow. The Ministry of Education says Kawich is causing discomfort at several schools. They're also working with several entities to have the affected areas cleared and foliage removed. The ministry regrets any inconvenience caused and thanks all concerned for their patience and understanding. The Education Ministry also acted swiftly on a reported electrical problem at St. Giles Primary School and addressed it quickly. School will continue as scheduled today. Now, for those students at the Alexandra School, special arrangements are in place for the next 2 days. Only students from 4th to 6th form are to report to school today. 1st to 3rd form students are to report to school on Wednesday. You're watching the CBC Morning Report. When we come back, we'll tell you what Guyana is doing to separate its economic growth from fossil fuel use.
Some ask, what makes Barbados so special? We at Mornin Barbados say it's you, our exceptional youth. You are talented, resilient, and inspirational. You are the epitome of the Barbadian spirit, testing the boundaries of your creativity. If you are an entrepreneur, artist, baker, designer, author, or have done anything you think should be highlighted, email us at morninbarbados@cbc.bb. Let us show the world our exceptional Bajan youth.
Books open your heart, your mind, and your soul. They are educational, entertaining, inspiring, and motivating. Are you an author of a recent book you want to share? Then Mornin Barbados would love to feature your book in our The Next Chapter segment. Send us an email to morninbarbados@cbc.bb. That's morning without the G. Come and let us turn those pages together.
Because you love English Premier League, MCTV has got it back. Now you can watch all the games of the English Premier League plus UEFA and NFL on MCTV.
The head of Guyana Energy Agency, Dr. Mahendra Sharma, says that as part of the low-carbon development strategy, reports and efforts are being made to decouple economic growth from fossil fuel use. HGP-TV's Antonio Day reports.
We're fostering development and helping to decouple economic growth from fossil fuel use.
GEA head Dr. Mahendra Sharma speaking at the International Energy Conference and Expo. Decoupling economic growth from fossil fuels simply means pushing towards clean and renewable energy, but not relying on fossil fuels for economic growth or development. Moreover, economist Elson Lowe, in an invited comment, explained how this works from an economic perspective.
In the non-oil sector of the economy is able to have consistently high levels of growth, and that our energy policy can help to ensure such growth even in the absence of a reliance on fossil fuels. But when we talk about decoupling from being a totally oil and gas focused economy with growth only coming from the oil and gas sector, that's really that broad-based growth across the economy is what we're talking about.
Meanwhile, Sharma reported that 33 megawatt solar farms currently tendered by the Guyana Power Light Company will soon be commissioned in 8 communities.
And these units are currently being manufactured. It's through a loan from the government of India. And only this morning we saw the final prototypes of that, and they should be landing fairly shortly.
He also noted that Guyana currently receives enough sunshine every 2 hours to power the country's present electricity demands for an entire year. Asked if there are plans for the use of tidal energy, he explained that while this type of energy has been analyzed by scientists for years, once practical and modified, it will be executed and more so viable to Guyana.
Tidal energy, we've been looking at tidal for some time now. Tidal has been in the laboratory for a long time. If there's a breakthrough and the cost per unit of installed capacity goes down, definitely it's an area for us to look at.
Tidal energy is power produced by the surge of ocean waters during the rise and fall of tides. It is a renewable source of energy.
The minister responsible for water is appealing to Jamaicans to conserve water. Amidst the call is an announcement for a $50 million water trucking program for drought-hit areas.
Jamaica is experiencing meteorological drought. Regardless of where you live, you can see that everywhere is a little drier than we would like to see it.
a confirmation of what farmers and householders have known for a few weeks. Large parts of Jamaica are experiencing a drought. The minister responsible for water, Senator Matthew Samuda, said the situation is being discussed at the highest level.
After meeting with the Prime Minister late last week, he instructed that an analysis be done to determine areas greatest impacted by the current lack of rainfall, and he asked that we design a trucking program to support the areas most impacted in partnership with the NWC and indeed the local authorities, and that we give some support that carries us up until the end of the budget year. Now, for that purpose, the Ministry of Economic Growth and Job Creation has allocated 50 million Jamaican dollars to assist the NWC and indeed the municipalities for 6 weeks of trucking of water to the most affected areas.
The minister accepts the sum may not be sufficient to totally alleviate the shortage persons are facing, but reasons it is all that is available at this time. The senator also begged persons not to waste the little water they have.
November and December both saw a situation where every parish received rainfall less than their 30-year average. Though the data for January is preliminary, the trend appears to have continued and in fact worsened. We had expected and hoped for greater rainfall earlier in the year. We have not received it. So I ask citizens to be very cognizant of how we use the water that we do have. We're asking for conservation.
The minister addressed the situation while speaking at the commissioning of a water facility in Yorktown in southwestern Clarendon. The facility, installed at a cost of more than $20 million, will improve the supply of water to over 180 households in the community.
To Trinidad and Tobago now, BP Renegades are the 2023 Panorama Large Conventional Band champs. This is a 12th win for the band. We have more in this report.
The atmosphere at the Queen's Park Savannah buzzed with excitement as the 13 large conventional band finalists converged for the most anticipated Panorama event for the carnival season. Band after band gave their everything before the judges and the large audience, delivering a mix of old and recent hits. The band that stood out for the judges and therefore awarded Pan's top prize was the Duvon Stewart arranged BP Renegades with their rendition of the late Dr. Leroy Caliste, the Black Stallions' Black Man Feeling to Party. Coming in second was Republic Bank Exodus as they thrilled the audience with their interpretation of Tourist Lego. And in third place was the energetic Nutrient Silver Stars arrangement of Olatunji's 2023 mega hit, Engine Room. Shell Invaders placed fourth, Massey Trinidad All-Stars placed fifth, Hadco Phase 2 Pan Groove and NLCB Buccaneers tied for sixth place. Coming in seventh was TN Tech Tropical Angel Hops. 2020 winners Desperados came in ninth position. First Citizen Supernova placed 10th, and NLCB Fontclair Proman Starlift and Heritage Petroleum Skiffle placed 11th, 12th and 13th respectively.
In other news now, Norfolk Southern officials say the company is working with Ohio environmental and health agencies to respond to the environmental impact caused by the train derailment in East Palestine on February the 3rd. While officials say the air and water are safe in the area, some residents say they're still concerned about potential health hazards caused by the accident. CNN's John Laurent reports.
Just over 2 weeks have passed since a Norfolk Southern train derailed and dumped toxic materials near East Palestine, Ohio, but the aftermath lingers on.
Watch what happens when they disturb the waterbed. Look at these chemicals, look at these colors. These chemicals, and it has kind of a butane smell to it.
On Sunday, Transportation Secretary Pete Buttigieg sent a letter to Norfolk Southern CEO Alan Shaw demanding accountability adding that the people of East Palestine cannot be forgotten, nor can their pain be simply considered the cost of doing business.
We worked with the Ohio EPA on safe operations and safety for the community.
Norfolk Southern CEO Alan Shaw also says all air and municipal water tests have come back clean, but some people should still drink bottled water.
Private well testing, we need to continue to monitor and test the wells and wait for those test results to come back.
Some residents say they are suffering since the derailment.
After those symptoms, I also noticed that I have this rash on my arm that was not there before I came here.
Ohio Senator Sherrod Brown says he understands why people in the affected areas are skeptical and concerned.
They know that corporate lobbyists have had far too much influence in our government, and they see this as the result. And this kind of thing shouldn't happen.
The Catholic community in Los Angeles is mourning after a bishop was shot to death in his home. Auxiliary Bishop David O'Connell was found dead on Saturday from a gunshot wound to the chest. Parishioners are now wondering who could have killed the man who served the community for 45 years. Camila Bernal reports.
A murder investigation shocking the Los Angeles Catholic community, now mourning the loss of Bishop David O'Connell.
It's just heartbreaking to see what happened to him. I'm brokenhearted. I've been crying for the last 2 days knowing that he's no longer here to share all of his inspiration and his prayers and everything with us.
The search for the killer is ongoing. Homicide detectives with the Los Angeles County Sheriff's Office working to get a clear picture of what happened. Deputies responding to an emergency call at the bishop's home on Saturday around 1 in the afternoon.
It was learned that the person was found deceased in the room, bleeding, with what we believe is an apparent gunshot wound to his upper torso.
The Los Angeles Archbishop, Jose Gomez, saying in a statement that he is in shock and deeply disturbed and saddened. The Archbishop describing O'Connell as a man of deep prayer, someone who served the Los Angeles community for 45 years.
He always was praying, and even one time at the parking lot when he was going to celebrate my son's confirmation, he was, walking around the parking lot praying his rosary. So to me, that was, that's everything.
O'Connell, who was originally from Ireland, is also being remembered as a peacemaker with a heart for the poor and the immigrant community.
I'm very hurt by his passing, because he's one of the most lovable, humble persons I've ever met.
The Archbishop now asking for prayers for the bishop, his family, and for law enforcement as they continue the investigation.
Now I know that he's in the presence of God, praying for all of us, for peace. We need peace.
Well, the number of Israeli settlers has quadrupled in the last 30 years, and more than 700,000 Israelis are now living in illegal settlements in the occupied West Bank. That's according to the Peace Now organization. Palestinians say it is costing them their land and resources.
Mohammed Mlihat is one of only a few Palestinian Bedouins left in the Mu'arrajat area in the occupied West Bank. Their lifestyle depends on herding livestock, but it's now under threat. Over the last several years, Israeli settlers have begun establishing herding and farming outposts. For Mlihat, that means half of the lands available for grazing are now off limits. Palestinian shepherds say settlers often attack them and their flocks.
They want us out of these lands. They don't want any Bedouin here. If someone protects me and my livestock, we won't leave. We'll be reassured if peace activists come to help us to expose Israel. Those settlers are crazy people on the loose. This is an Israeli policy.
Mlihat says that some of those who attack his family come from settlement outposts like this one. It's been expanding into more Palestinian lands since it was established in 2004. Palestinians say they've gotten used to the cycle. The more violence settlers exercise, the faster they get pushed off of their lands.
All these settlements together, they're supposed to close Jericho, so Jericho won't expand to the north.
Dror Atkis has been monitoring settlement expansion for more than 2 decades. His research shows how those outposts are used to take more Palestinian lands. He says the way they spread out is not random. 77 settler farming outposts have been established in the occupied West Bank, 66 of them during the last decade. Although they're not recognized by the Israeli government, they receive funds and services from governmental bodies. Grazing has played an important role in determining their location. Atkis says farming outposts are used to control Palestinian lands that built-up settlements cannot.
Most of these settlers which are dwelling in these outposts, they belong to the most extreme and most violent sector within the Israeli settlements. In order to establish such an outpost, you need to be willing to exercise a lot of violence. Palestinian herders are not going to leave their land unless they are threatened.
40 families are now in this area. That's down from 75 just over a decade ago. Many were forced to give up their Bedouin lifestyle altogether. Those who remain fear it's only a matter of time.
Well, coming up at 6:30 on Morning Barbados, the report coming out of the just recently concluded CARICOM heads of government, plus what's in the pipeline for the relationship between Barbados and the Bahamas. Also today, Dr. Jean Butcher-Lashley has written a book on the principles of higher education institutions in Barbados, who's been shortlisted and what can we learn from their experience and their lives. And when our pediatrician, Dr. Gillian Birchwood, joins us in just a little while, we want to look at my child constantly has a cold. What can I do about it? That is what we'll be discussing this morning and more when you join me at 6:30 for Morning Barbados. We'll take a break right here. The morning report continues in just a moment.
Because you love English Premier League, MCTV has got it back. Now you can watch all the games of the English Premier League plus UEFA and NFL on MCTV. Current customers can upgrade to Matchback Extra at just $23. Call MCTV today at 228-6288 to upgrade or come in and sign up for our new service. Football fans, let MCTV get you back in the game.
While you go about your business, we go about our business, and that is gathering the news. Stay up to date at CBC News Barbados on Facebook, Instagram and Twitter. Get news update on radio throughout the day. And join us for the CBC News Night at 7 every night. CBC News team is on the job and bringing you the news.
There is a saying, you can find a Bajan anywhere. Are you a Bajan living abroad? Or do you know of one who has migrated to another country? Well, we at
Damaged road signs, potholes and other problems with the road infrastructure are now actively being addressed under a new initiative. The Ministry of Transport and Works and Water Resources is rolling out its National Signage and Road Infrastructure Project, launched recently at the BWA headquarters. From today, you can expect to see these community auditors in the field conducting assessments primarily on signage in this first phase of the program. And speaking during a training workshop, Deputy Prime Minister and Minister responsible, Santia Bradshaw, says the auditors will be using an app to gather necessary data to inform decision-making and improve road infrastructure.
We're all users of roads, we're all users across Barbados in terms of transportation, walking, and I think you are well aware that just like we see potholes all over the place, we see signage that is broken, we see culverts that are broken, we see all of these things. In order for the ministry to improve and to be able to meet the needs that the public has, we got to be able to figure out what is breaking down and what is the state in which we have it in, and therefore be able to fix it, right? So that's why your role in executing this project is going to be so important in addressing the concerns that all of us have as Bajans in dealing with all of the broken down infrastructure that we see across the island.
The 40 community auditors involved will be using technology developed by local firm Caribbean Transit Solutions as they capture critical information on the street signs along 20 routes covering 480 kilometers over the next 2 months. Co-founder and marketing lead Veronica Millington says the ministry now has a tool to address several issues with Barbados road infrastructure.
The project right now is tailored towards signage, but the actual portal through the administrators can be used by adding additional categories. So if you wanted to map roads, if you wanted to map certain zones, whether that was a debushing zone, if you wanted to even map things like hydrants or potholes or other points of interest that the ministry in the future may want to do, at the admin level you can add a plethora of categories, and then future loggers can go into the field and document these either road impediments, sidewalk impediments, and anything else.
Barbados is recording an alarming number of road accidents. That's according to the latest statistics provided by the General Insurance Association of Barbados. Director Anton Lovell gave the update on the People's Business, which focused on the topic Insurance and You.
Reported to police is about 7,000 accidents on average annually, and another 1,000 unreported. So we're talking about 8,000 accidents. And that's just over 21 accidents a day, which I think is too high. And I mentioned already the cost of the accident that is impacting on insurance companies. So again, if we could get these accidents reduced, well then we would consider reducing your premiums as well.
In defending recent price increases on premiums, Mr. Lovell explains insurance providers are paying triple what they were a few years ago to cover accident costs.
The average cost of an accident a few years ago was about $5,000. Today, that average cost now is $15,000 for every accident you see on average. And with injury, that goes up, that doubles between $30,000 and $35,000. So it's for a long time the insurance companies have been holding their premiums, but it has come a time now that again we operate in Barbados. We operate where everything has gone up. Everything has gone up. So again, our water bills, our electricity, our rent, you name it. And double that is the accident cost that has risen as well.
Well, the coveted Sandy Lane Gold Cup has arrived safely in Barbados 12 days ahead of the prestigious horse racing event scheduled for the 4th at the Garrison Savannah. Minister of Sports, Youth and Community Empowerment, Charles Griffith, was present at the arrival ceremony and expressed his pleasure after a 2-year hiatus owing to the COVID-19 pandemic. The minister described the Gold Cup event as a staple on the sporting calendar and thanked Sandy Lane for their continued support. The sports minister believes that horse racing can be an enriching profession for Barbadians and revealed that plans are being formulated for the establishment of a horse racing academy.
I would want to say this evening that the ministry is actively, plans are in train to ensure that we have a horse racing academy located right here in Barbados, because we believe that a number of our youngsters can benefit from such an entity coming on board. So my staff, we're actively looking to see how best that we can have this horse racing academy started this year. We have identified a plantation that we're looking to see how we can best start the process there.
Well, Sandy Lane has been sponsoring the Gold Cup race for 25 years, and General Manager of the resort, James Matthews, gave the assurance that they will continue to support it in the future. He noted the positive impact the race has on Barbados' tourism sector and acknowledged their partnership with the Barbados Turf Club is critical to the success of the event.
We would also like to thank and take a special mention to our long-standing partner, the Barbados Turf Club, whose efforts will once again allow Barbados to host regional and international horses owned by the world's leading investors in thoroughbred racing. As we do every year, Barbadians and visitors alike will have the opportunity to see the Gold Cup displayed at Bridgetown Duty Free in Bridgetown as we gear up for the truly spectacular Gold Cup.
All right, let's turn our attention now to the weather as we take a look at forecast conditions recorded earlier at the Met Office of the Grantley Adams International Airport. At the moment, 22 degrees Celsius, nice and cool, cloudy outside. The winds are barely blowing, though, coming from the east at 9 kilometers an hour. Heading to the beach today, expect a low tide at 25 minutes to 11 this morning, the second at 6 past 11 tonight, and a high tide at 7 minutes to 5 this afternoon. Seas are predicted to be moderate and open water swells ranging from 1 to 2 meters and increasing. In the forecast for Barbados today, cloudy periods with the occasional scattered light shower. And for Barbados tonight, a mix of clear skies and clouds with a few brief scattered light showers. Look at forecast conditions for international cities. That's it for today's edition of the CBC Morning Report. I'm Pearson Bowen. Morning Barbados starts now.
Wake up, wake up, wake up, wake up. Barbados, get up. Good morning, Barbados, good morning. Good morning to you. Good morning, 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 morning. Good morning to you. Good morning, morning, Barbados, good morning. Good morning to you. Good morning, morning, Barbados, good morning. Wake up, wake up, wake up. Morning to you.
That's right, I say good morning to you as well. Welcome to Tuesday, the 21st of February, 2023. I'm Pearson Bowen, welcoming all of you here, there, and everywhere indeed. Thank you so much for joining us on our streams on YouTube and on Facebook as well. Always wonderful to have your interaction with us. Now, coming up today, we meet an artist from Belize, who specializes in photorealism. What is that about? We'll talk to him about that and a whole lot more. Plus, my child is constantly having a cold. What can I do about it? If that is your trial and tribulation, our pediatrician, Dr. Gillian Birchwood, will join us this morning. She has some ideas. She has some solutions. She has some things to point you, directions to point you in, so look out for that interaction with her in just a little while as well. This morning we'll meet the author, Dr. Jean Butcher-Lashy. She's written a book on the principles of higher education institution in Barbados. She's been able to identify at least 4 of them, and so we'll get to know who they are that have found their way and their story into her book, and the lessons we can learn from their experiences through education. She's learned quite a lot, and so we want to hear from her just what it is that we can all benefit from when we turn the pages of the book, Principles of Higher Education Institutions. Him in just a moment, and we're looking forward to hearing that report coming out of the meeting of CARICOM and to hear what it means for Barbados now to have that relationship with the Bahamas formalized in the way it has. There he is. Good morning, Ambassador.
Good morning, Pearson. I lost the audio there for a couple seconds.
Yeah, that's all right. But welcome home after what was clearly a very busy time for you.
Yes, it was a very substantial CARICOM Heads of Government conference. Not a whole lot of agendas on the item, not a whole lot of items on the agenda, sorry, but solid items. And you just had to look at the guest who found it important come to the Bahamas to speak to the CARICOM Heads of Government from the United States. You had a delegation that comprised John Kerry, the President's Special Envoy on Climate, Assistant Secretary of State, Brian McNichols, Senator Chris Dodd, the President's Special Envoy, the head of the U.S. Export-Import Bank. You had from Canada, Prime Minister Justin Trudeau. You had from the United Arab Emirates, the country that is hosting COP28 this year, their Minister of International Development and her team from Africa, Professor Benedict Orama of the Afri-Exim Bank and his whole team. From the World Trade Organization, the Director General, Dr. Ngozi Okonjo-Iweala and her team. And so it sent a message that CARICOM is being taken very, very seriously in major capitals and institutions all across the world. And I would say that we were able to deal with some substantive items. The Agri-Food Production Project, 25 by 25, Haiti, obviously, the Bridgetown Initiative, our African outreach program centered around the Afri-Exim Bank. And I would say that those were some of the major items that we were able to make very serious advances on.
What I'm pleased about is the full adoption by the CARICOM members of the Bridgetown Initiative. Talk to me a little bit about what members were saying and why now this full adoption.
Well, you know, the Bridgetown Initiative was crafted in Barbados last year, around about early August. And although it is called the Bridgetown Initiative, it is really an initiative that came out of a meeting of minds, international minds, leading thinkers on climate and development finance from across the world. And so CARICOM member states would not have known as much about it as Barbados. So this was the first heads of government summit that we had available to present it in great detail to our fellow CARICOM governments. So Prime Minister Motley spoke about it, as did Professor Avinash Prasad, who is Barbados's the Prime Minister's Special Envoy on climate. So our fellow CARICOM nations were able to get a very good understanding of it. Of course, they have all embraced it. They will all be seeking to use the upcoming spring meetings at the IMF and the World Bank to push the initiative. Prime Minister Motley and the President of France, Macron, they are scheduled to have a special global summit in June in France to promote the ideas of the Bridgetown Initiative. CARICOM is on board with that. CARICOM has also agreed that they will be have the Bridgetown Initiative on the agenda of COP28 in the United Arab Emirates. Although I think that is an open door, because the United Arab Emirates actually came to the conference and very much behind and supporting the Bridgetown Initiative. And just for viewers, the Bridgetown Initiative is this cutting-edge program to solve the climate crisis, to solve the world's climate crisis, to keep the global temperature rise to 1.5 degrees by the end of this century, but also to solve the crisis of development for developing countries, to vastly increase the amount of capital available for investment in solving things like poverty and education for all and healthcare for all, and also to reform the multilateral development banks and the international financial institutions, to bring them into the 21st century and to upscale them and make them more relevant to the very critical issues facing mankind today.
Having listed the number of people who came from North America, from the United Arab Emirates, Africa, who were part of this meeting as well, talk to me about advancing their support in advancing the CARICOM agenda globally, really. What did Canada say? What did North America, just North America in general, also say in understanding the issues of CARICOM?
Yeah. Well, Canada came, the Prime Minister of Canada came with, in an effort to enhance the relationship between Canada and CARICOM. So, for example, he has proposed that we have a specific Canada-CARICOM summit, heads of government summit, later this year. He also came trying to make a contribution, financial contribution to our efforts to deal with the climate crisis in the Caribbean, our efforts to deal with the Haitian migrant crisis, and things of that nature. And he came also to outline what Canada is trying to do in relation to Haiti and to solicit the support of CARICOM. Everybody actually came requesting the support of CARICOM for their initiatives. So, for example, the Director General of the World Trade Organization, she is embarked on a program of reforms. She wants the support, the active support of CARICOM. The United States, likewise, John Kerry came to talk about the fight against global warming and the partnership that they wish to have with CARICOM. So everybody came with their own priorities and wanting CARICOM's involvement and support. For me, though, Pearson, the goosebump moment of the conference, the moment that caused you to actually fight back the shedding of tears, was the African Export-Import Bank engagement with the heads of government, President Panorama of the bank, because after all of these years of trying to bring about the concrete unity of Africa and the Caribbean, it is finally happening in a very big way, Pearson. And so we are talking about the bank setting up its headquarters here in Barbados, the bank allocating $1.5 billion to finance trade and investment between Africa and the Caribbean. And President Panorama made it clear, if the other CARICOM, nine CARICOM states have signed on to the partnership thus far, if the others sign on, that $1.5 billion will go to $3 billion. The bank is going to help us, is going to work with our CARICOM Development Fund to develop Caribbean development bonds to help finance development across the region. They are financing studies to lead towards the development of a Caribbean export-import bank. We are looking at our central bankers are right now in discussions with the bank to see how we can take their Pan-African payments and settlement system and apply it to the Caribbean. We used to have a similar system decades ago with the CARICOM multilateral clearing facility. So this is a payment system that facilitates trade across the region, so that when you're trading, you don't have to be paying out in hard currencies. So we're going to try to apply their system and a whole range of things, Pearson. I mean, yes. We are on the verge of the direct flights between Barbados and Nigeria.
Wow.
And investment, Africa, cruise tourism, African cruise tourism centered on Barbados in the Caribbean, you know. So it was so moving to hear the commitment of the bank to reversing the Middle Passage, yes. the historic significance of reversing that Middle Passage, reversing that painful history of the transatlantic slave trade, and instead coming together in our own right to build our lives together. It was very moving. Professor Hilary Becker spoke, Prime Minister Ralph Gonzalez, very, very moving moment.
I feel it already by your description of what happened. You know, you're walking in my mind somehow, because those are the kinds of things I really wanted to hear about. But while there also, you had a chance to present your credentials, and because you were on the ground, I'm sure you had opportunity to look around the place where you were in Nassau, Bahamas, to see the potential for relationships between the two. Were you able to identify any specific things that you'd like to be able to advance discussions on between Barbados and the Bahamas?
Yes, so I am now Barbados's non-resident High Commissioner to the Bahamas. I'm also non-resident High Commissioner to Belize and to Jamaica. And my thinking is that just as Barbados has an outreach program to the Southern Caribbean, we have a very comprehensive and dynamic program with Guyana and Suriname, that we could similarly have an outreach to the Northern Caribbean, principally Belize, Jamaica, and the Bahamas. So I'm going to be working on that. Already, we are very well advanced in developing joint cooperation programs with both Belize and Jamaica. So we are now going to work on Bahamas, but rather than seeing them as separate cooperation agreements, we're going to see how we can have an overarching Northern Caribbean cooperation program. I think ways in which Barbados and the Bahamas can come together. I even see the possibility of a special reside and work program between the two countries, where our people, Barbadians, can go to explore work and career opportunities in the Bahamas. And likewise, we both share in common tourism, the international business sector. We both have aspirations for developing renewable energy, for developing the ocean or blue economy. There can be synergies between their John Canoe and our Crop Over Festival,
Yes.
Young education linkages. I would like to see many more Bahamian students at our Cave Hill campus, and particularly at our Errol Barrow Center for Creative Imagination, training in the arts and so forth.
Mm-hmm.
So many things to explore, and I'm looking forward to it.
I am too. But we have some pictures of your experience while you were there. We want to share with the rest of Barbados and the world. There it is. You're meeting with the Governor General of the Bahamas, I believe, in this picture?
Yes, Sir Cornelius Smith. I'm actually presenting my letter of credence to him. So that would be the letter from President Dame Sandra Mason, presenting me to the government of the Bahamas as a person worthy to be Barbados's official representative to the Bahamas. So that was, a very moving ceremony. And that's my Bahamian counterpart, the lady, Ambassador Miller Bryce. She is Bahamas's ambassador to CARICOM, and she's also Bahamas's non-resident High Commissioner to Barbados.
Okay. As I was watching and listening for just a moment, I'd love to be able to write your story, your life story. At some point, it has to be such a wonderful story to write and to read. Indeed, I hope that at some point that you take some time to document all that you've been doing in your relatively short space on Earth so far. So we want to thank you so much, Ambassador Kamashon, for all that you've been doing and for joining us again this morning in our conversations on CARICOM.
Thank you, Pearson. I really think that our best years as a country and as a region are ahead of us. I see so much, we are facing many challenges, but there's also so much promise. And I think we are finally coming into a real consciousness of ourselves, who we are, and what we need to do and be in this world.
And a lot of that redounds to you and your efforts and your contributions here with us on Conversations on CARICOM. Thank you, Ambassador.
Thank you, sir.
You're welcome. You're welcome indeed. Ambassador David Comishon, Barbados Ambassador to CARICOM, giving us a report on his recent and what happened recently at the 44th regular meeting of CARICOM heads of government, plus his presentation of his credentials to the government and the peoples of the Bahamas. We're going to take a break right here. We're coming back with more in just a moment.
Morning, morning, morning. Good morning. Good morning to you.
There is a saying, you can find a Bajan anywhere. Are you a Bajan living abroad? Or do you know of one who has migrated to another country? Well, we at Mornin Barbados would love to have you or them on our Bajan Affair segment. Share your amazing stories, experiences, and how you have adapted to a new culture. Send us an email to morninbarbados@cbc.vb. And together we will travel the world.
Enjoy movies, soaps, drama, comedy, inspiration, education, music, and more. You get it all when you get
Morning, morning, morning. Good morning. Good morning to you.
So we're 9 minutes now to go to the hour of 7 o'clock. As you do know, remember, recently the Royal Society of Chemistry had a workshop entitled Chemistry, Calories and Combustion, addressing the Caribbean epidemic of youth obesity and examining fossil fuel combustion and its linkages to climate change. Long, right? Well, it happened on the 28th of January. And then they had 120 young people from a number of schools across the island who registered to experience chemistry in very fun, hands-on ways and formulated soft drinks and a whole host of things. They really got beneath the surface as it relates to the whole thing. Well, a spectacular dexterity display of combustion engine chemistry was also performed by Fabian Holder and Greg Greenidge, and we want to take a look. Take a look with us.
We properly mix it with the water, it's majority water, and then with the push of a button, carbon dioxide is put into your beverage, and you now have a carbonated beverage.
So this is at 2 milliamps. All right, let's put it at 20. That means it still has a little bit of electrolyte in it. So that starts at 0.03. Okay, so that's telling us it has very little electrolytes in there. What if we move on to something like plus? What would we expect? We expect a lot more. And if we were to look at the, well, this has that it has 25 milligrams of potassium. You can look there. And what's potassium? Does anybody know what potassium looks like, or what the formula is? K what? K what? Is a positively charged ion or a negatively charged ion? Positive, right? So it's K plus. So let us see, let's put it in. Y'all reading? All right, let's change this up to, let's say 200. Okay. See that? Shoots right up. Okay. So what we're gonna do is between each, we have to rinse it well, right? So rinse. All right, so somebody can come. Anybody wants to come over here? Just dip it. Okay, let's go this one first. Yeah. Put it in. Take it out. Good. What was this reading? 18. It was less than. It was 18. What was this reading? 20 something. So, especially in the straw. Somebody else could do this in that side. All on this metal. There we go. What about a pool? Somebody could do this one next. A pool. 11, right? So that gives about 11. So somebody could help her, right? What about coconut water? What do we think that would be? Haiku was about 10. This was about what? 17. This was like what? 20, right? What do we think this should be? 30. Somebody say 7, somebody say 30. Let's see. We rinse this off good? Okay, let's go.
Ooh. That was sharp. Not drink coconut water.
Now, what would be the benefit of drinking, let's say, coconut water over than any of these ones? Is healthier. Why is it healthier? Less sugar. Less sugar, right? So if you were to exercise, let's say you were not feeling well, coconut water would be the best way to rehydrate. Make sense?
25. 30 seconds. 35.
I can hear skipping rocks whistling, man, whistling. Whoa.
40. 45. 15 seconds to go. 10 seconds. 5, 4, 3, 2, and all done. 20 seconds to go. 15 seconds. 10 seconds. 5, 4, 3, 2, stop.
She want you to get straight on the spoon. Different style.
The theme was chemistry, calories and combustion, and you just had a snapshot of just what they experienced recently at that chemistry workshop, indeed hosted by the Royal Society of Chemistry on the island. Perhaps they'll have a follow-up a little bit more, so we'll tell you when they tell us. But let's turn our attention now to celebrating black excellence. Celebrating, I mean truly, black excellence, and as dare I say, black beauty as well. We're talking here about today Whitney Houston, The Voice, an American singer and actress nicknamed The Voice. She is and has been one of the best-selling music artists of all times, with over 200 million records sold worldwide. She is the only artist to have had 7 consecutive #1 singles on the Billboard Hot 100, from Saving All My Love for You in 1985 all the way down to Where Do Broken Hearts Go in 1988. That is Whitney Houston. And when she was debuted, you know, she was noted then as the most beautiful woman in the world because of the way her face was constructed. Wasn't she amazing? Isn't she amazing? I won't even think of her in the past tense, indeed. But definitely one whose excellence we continue to celebrate, whose music we continue to play and to hear and to enjoy and to be moved by. Whitney Houston. Whitney Elizabeth Houston. All right, we're going to take a break right here. We'll be coming back with the news in just a moment.
Morning, morning, morning. Good morning. Good morning to you.
Enjoy movies, soaps, drama, comedy, inspiration, education, music, and more. You get it all when you get MCTV, because MCTV gives you more.
Some ask, what makes Barbados so special? We at Mornin Barbados say it's you, our exceptional youth. You are talented, resilient, and inspirational. You are the epitome of the Barbadian spirit, testing the boundaries of your creativity. If you are an entrepreneur, artist, baker, designer, author, or have done anything you think should be highlighted? Email us at morninbarbados@cbc.bb. Let us show the world our exceptional Bajan youth.
Books open your heart, your mind, and your soul. They are educational, entertaining, inspiring, and motivating. Are you an author of a recent book you want to share?
Morning, morning, morning. Good morning. Good morning to you.
It is 7 o'clock in Barbados in the Eastern Caribbean. Time for the news. Local authorities have taken a major step geared at arresting youth deviants and laying a foundation for community empowerment. It comes in the form of a Centre Management Committee. Installed over the weekend, Youth Affairs Minister Charles Griffith says the team will be integral in ensuring community centres across the island are used often and that they become a space for youth to engage in positive and wholesome activity.
Centre management committees will be made up of 9 individuals. You have a chairman, a deputy chair, 5 community members, a member of a youth and community group drawn from the area where the centre management committees will exist, and you have a member from the community development department being involved in the process. And we felt that that was the adequate number to engage in this activity to bring about change at community level.
Minister Griffith also envisions the committee will be assisting in rekindling the community spirit across the island.
At some point in time this year, we hope to launch a best community project. It is called something else by the ministry. I think it is called Pride. But this is one of the things that at the 4 locations that will see the centre management committees, that you can take lead and you can be the ones who promote this at the level, because this is again about empowering community.
Barbados has lots of potential as a global tourism leader once it diversifies its product offerings to passengers. The perspective of Chief Executive Officer of the Barbados Tourism Marketing Incorporated, Jens Trenhart. Speaking during the estimates, he said a lot must be done to broaden the product scope. According to him, they've been using digital platforms, local celebrities and other means, but sustainability is at the core of it all.
Reduce seasonality and make Barbados known to the world. There are various initiatives that we can leverage to do that. On one hand, having guests and residents share their experiences on island via social media that builds a content cloud. On the other hand, leveraging orange economy and film, collaborative campaigns with the private sector, and also leveraging Bajan celebrities. However, coming out of the pandemic, sustainability needs to be a core part of our strategy, and with that, creating a resilient destination, because I think we can all be sure that this won't be the last crisis.
The Chief Executive Officer of the BTMI also said that in the cruise sector, they're moving away from cruise stops to more home porting filled with local experiences.
And that's obviously a big opportunity to increase cruise passenger spending on island. By creating this consumer demand, we see that there's a lot of opportunities to create new products and new services. Having said though, Barbados is blessed with having a lot of products and services already here that is very hard for other destinations to build, very quickly. I'm talking about sports, from cricket to golf to surfing to sailing to horse riding to even motorsport. Events and festivals, we have Crop Over, we have Food and Rum, we have Run Barbados, and also we're partnering with a lot of other entities to bring events and sporting events and festivals here.
The Ministry of Education is informing staff, parents and guardians of the Blackman and Gollop Primary and the Talmabarry Nursery Schools that classes for these 2 schools will be conducted online today and tomorrow. The Ministry of Education says cow-itch is causing discomfort at several schools. They are working with several entities to have the affected areas cleared and foliage removed. The ministry regrets any inconvenience and thanks all concerned for their patience and understanding. The ministry also acted swiftly on a reported electrical problem at St. Giles Primary School and addressed it quickly. School therefore will continue as scheduled today. Now, for those students at the Alexandra School, special arrangements are in place for the next 2 days. Only students from 4th to 6th form are to report to school today. 1st and 3rd form students are to report to school on Wednesday. Barbados is recording an alarming number of road accidents. That's according to the latest statistics provided by the General Insurance Association of Barbados. Director Anton Lovell gave the update on the People's Business, which focused on the topic Insurance and You.
Reported to police is about 7,000 accidents on average annually, and another 1,000 unreported. So we're talking about 8,000 accidents. And that's just over 21 accidents a day, which I think is too high. And I mentioned already the cost of the accident that is impacting on insurance companies. So again, if we could get these accidents reduced, well then we would consider reducing your premiums as well.
In defending recent price increases on premiums, Mr. Lovell explains insurance providers are paying triple what they were a few years ago to cover accident costs.
Average cost of an accident a few years ago was about $5,000. Today, that average cost now is $15,000 for every accident you see on average. And with injury, that goes up, that doubles between $30,000 and $35,000. So it's a long time the insurance companies have been holding their premiums, but it has come a time now that again, we operate in Barbados, we operate where everything has gone up. Everything has gone up. So again, our water bills, our electricity, our rent, you name it, and double that is the accident cost that has risen as well.
Well, that's our news until now. We'll have more news on TV8 at 12 noon in the CBC News Day. Morning Barbados comes back in just a moment.
Morning, morning, morning. Good morning. Good morning to you. Morning, morning, morning. Good morning. Good morning to you.
So it's 8.5 minutes now after 7 o'clock. Dr. Jean Butcher-Lashley is an author, but she's also an educator of many years. And so, as the author part stepped forward, she rewritten a book. She has written many books, but she's written this one in particular entitled Principles of Higher Education Institutions in Barbados, a Life History Methodology. What's all of that about and who is she written about? She joins us now. Good morning to you, Dr. Butcher-Lashley.
Good morning, Pearson, and good morning, Barbados.
Good to see you, indeed. You're very welcome. Congratulations on your latest offering. Talk to me a little bit about it. The High Principles of Higher Education Institutions in Barbados, a Life History Methodology. What's the book about?
Thank you. It is about the lives and careers of our higher education principals. And I interviewed, in fact, let me say that the book is based on my doctoral thesis. And naturally, because I am at the level of the higher education institutions, that is an area that interests me. And of course, higher education has contributed tremendously to our society in terms of nation building. I interviewed 4 principals of those tertiary education institutions. We had Sir Keith Hunt, Mrs. Norma Holder, who has unfortunately passed away, Dr. Maureen Lucas, and Mr. Hector Bell. And of course, those institutions, the University of West Indies, Barbados Community College, Samuel Jackman Prescott Polytechnic, Samuel Jackman Prescott Institute of Technology, and of course, the Erdison Teachers Training College.
But you know, after the colon, you put a life history methodology. So in that, you're seeking to understand, I suppose, the principles by which, using a different principle now, the principles by which they lived and taught and distributed in education to the people. Is that what you're hoping to do through the book?
Yes, I listened to their stories, their early life, their schooling, their careers. And I'm making connections between their early life experiences and their roles in the professional sphere. There's a lot of research that supports and corroborates the connection that we make between our personal lives and who we are, how we lead in our professional lives. So it is research that is important or significant in relation to the field of education, but it's also important in other fields of endeavor as well. And so based on that research and also my own life experiences as well, I was convinced that there is that. A lot of the research dealt with teachers and their careers, but I also felt that it aligned very well with principals because most principals were also teachers. And so it made sense to make that connection as well. And as I said, the examination of how we lead, I found that in terms of persons, as they live their lives, the incidents, what we call critical incidents, things that happen to them, affected the way in which they manage their institutions. And so it was fascinating to listen to their stories. And most of them grew up within the period of the 1930s, 40s, early 50s, a time in our lives where there were harsh economic conditions, but some of them had the opportunity to advance. And so they gave back in terms of returning. Some of them went away and they returned to Barbados in order to contribute and contribute significantly at that level. But I saw the connections between what we did, the persons who influenced our lives and so on. In fact, a lot of them were able to say, for example, that their mothers and fathers contributed to them being the persons that they were, grandparents. Some persons spoke about a collective group of persons who assisted them and motivating them and so on. So that in terms of the text, it is saying to us that we have to examine where we've come from, the stories that we tell. But more importantly, to Pearson, we have to be able to connect our stories to our history, the culture, the politics. We can't just take the stories alone. We have to connect them. And so we call it a life history methodology because we're connecting the history or the context, or we're placing our stories within the context in which we live. And then it is a particular approach that we take to it, which is called the methodology, your beliefs about reality. We construct our social reality and so on. So the stories that we tell are the stories that we need to listen to very carefully too.
Right. So when you do the comparison of the connections that you speak of, what have you discovered about changes over time?
When I made those connections, because I said we're covering a period of history from the 1930s, 40s, 60s, and so on. Number one, you're noting that in terms of our historical development, 30s, you get the riots in terms of the 1937 riots, and the 60s, we're moving towards independence and so on. And we're also noting the role of other organizations, the global connections that there are that impact and influence our institutions. So we're leading, but we're not aware of the other kinds of influences that are there, that are exerting some force, if you use that, on what is happening in our spheres of experience. So we notice, for example, a lot of the institutions developed within the 60s, but then by the 80s, they're all expanding. And so I was able to trace the developments that were taking place globally. and how they impacted on what was happening in terms of education in Barbados. Yeah. And so those were the changes that we noticed in the book.
That through the decades, that education and the delivery of education has expanded, and that we understand. But from the stories of these four, Sir Keith Hunt, and the others that you've listed as well, are there any similarities, apart from the decades in which they were born, are there any other similarities about how they conducted their lives and the why the decisions they took and the actions that they exhibited?
Yeah, we saw, for example, in Dr. Mr. Bell, for example, you could see, for example, his connection with agriculture. As you know, he led the Samuel Jackman Prescott Institute of Technology, and within that institution, it's a strong institution in terms of its importance is placed on agriculture. As a child growing up, he tells the story of having his kitchen garden, growing those vegetables and being able to sell them. He speaks also about teaching students for 11 plus, preparing them, and he and a group of students, 12, 13, 14, 15, they rented a house and they held school that time, and you can see his interest in making sure that person succeed. And so he, in his career as principal, he ensured he looked out for the students who were having a difficult time. You can see in terms of Maureen Lucas, Dr. Lucas, her influence of her father, who would have told her, you must always overcome challenges and difficulties. And her grandmother, who she said to us was one who got through life. She was able to build 2 houses and raise her children and so on. And so she was motivated by her. So when her institution had difficulties, there was a time when the Erdison institution was threatened with being closed. And she was able to stand up and defend that institution and ensure that the doors were kept open. You, for example, recognizing Sir Keith, he had the influence of, say, for example, a person like Alexandra Hoyos, who at the Lord School would have impressed upon him the need, for example, as a teacher, not to necessarily embarrass students in front of their peers, but afterwards take them aside and speak to them. And in terms of the way he led his institution, he was one who said to me he knew that he motivated persons. He listened to the person who didn't say very much, because he understood that that person had an important contribution to make, and they may not be able to do that within an environment where there were so many people around, but you were able to speak to persons at the side, or you speak to them in the mornings to say, hello, how are you doing? That personal contact and interaction, he felt it was important in terms of moving ourselves forward. And of course, they had important things to say too about how institutions should be led, and that is as a team working together. Shared leadership was the important message that, for example, Dr. Maureen Lucas had to make about education as we go forward.
You've studied and interviewed 2 males and 2 females. Were there any similarities by gender, and are there any real differences because of gender in the approach to higher education?
That's an interesting question. I found with the females brought what they call an ethic of care to the process. Not that the others didn't do that either. And let me say too that when we speak about females and males, that they both have the capacity to bring that ethic of care to us. But of course, normally we think of males as perhaps more logical and so on, more firm in terms of the decision making and things like that. But we saw what women are able to do. They were able to blend the two and created what we call an androgenic approach to leadership. And so I would say that even though you had male and females, they had, in a way, been able to combine both kinds of themselves, the male principle and the female principle together in themselves. And this is what we all aim for as well as leaders, to be able to unify and bring the male principle and the female principle together. But of course, my interest too in looking at the females, because I'm a female as well. And you know that in higher education, there are more males at the top. And so even though more females are the ones who go through it to the level of higher education, I was also interested in finding out, what is it that we could do to move more females to that level. so that they can contribute as well at a higher level.
So the book is called Principles of Higher Education Institutions in Barbados, a Life History Methodology. It'll probably be great reading for other people in the education system at the moment. And you can see a copy of the front of the book looks like you get a sense of it. Those pillars holding up a society indeed. And so is this one that you would commend to those in education at the moment so that they have a greater sense of purpose for what they do? Or is it just a book that you think any and everyone should really read?
Yes, it's a book specifically for educators, but given that all of us have some influence in some way on somebody's life as role models, and in any sphere of existence that we're in, where we have some kind of authority over others, I would think that this book is important to read, because it is saying to us we need to examine our lives, look at the role models that we've had, look at the way in which they've influenced us. And some of us might need the help to do that, but it is a book not only for educators, but also for all persons who make decisions that affect the lives of other people, because they need to look at those lives, look at the context of your life. What is it that influenced the person you have become, influence how you treat others, how you make decisions, and all those kinds of things. And you would agree with me, Pearson, that encompasses all of us.
Absolutely. Well put, well said. Dr. Jean Butcher-Lashley, the author of the book Principles of Higher Education Institutions in Barbados, a Life History Methodology. I want to thank you for joining us this morning. For anyone watching who says, I want to read that book, where can they get copies of it?
The book is available from the publishers at www.peterlang.com. And I would say that our publishers have been very generous. They are, that's where you can get the book. And I would say more, www.peterlang.com.
All right, so that's where you go to get your book indeed. Dr. Butcher-Lashley, thank you so much for joining us with us. It sounds like a very interesting thesis that you've written that now has been distilled into a book, and it would really make fantastic reading and as a guide to a number of people who find themselves in decision-making positions or even in positions of influence. It doesn't have to be decision-making alone. That these are people upon whose shoulders you can stand now. Sir Keith Hunt, Maureen Lucas, Hector Bell, and Dr. Norma Holder. These are outstanding educators and principals of higher educational institutions here on the island, and the practices they undertook to be able to move a generation forward significantly indeed, and you've been able to capture it. Thank you so much for joining us this morning.
Thank you for having me, Pearson.
You are very welcome. Good morning indeed. Morning Barbados takes a break right here. When we come back, why is your child having a cold so often, and what can you do about it? We'll talk to our pediatrician, Dr. Gillian Birchwood, about that right after this.
Books open your heart, your mind, and your soul. They are educational, entertaining, inspiring, and motivating. Are you an author of a recent book you want to share? Then Mornin Barbados would love to feature your book in our The Next Chapter segment. Send us an email to morninbarbados@cbc.bb. That's morning without the G. Come and let us turn those pages together.
Because you love English Premier League, MCTV has got it back. Now you can watch all the games of the English Premier League plus UEFA and NFL on MCTV. Current customers can upgrade to Max Pack Extra at just $23. Call MCTV today at 228-6288 to upgrade or come in and sign up for our new service. Football fans, let MCTV get you back in the game.
While you go about your business, we go about our business, and that is gathering the news. Stay up to date at CBC News Barbados on Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter. Get news update on radio throughout the day. And join us for the CBC News Night at
24 minutes now after the hour of 7 o'clock. On the Tuesday morning, we get ready to have a good educational system with our favorite pediatrician, Dr. Julian Birchwood. Dr. Birchwood, good morning.
Good morning, Pearson, and good morning, all of Barbados.
As always, good to see you. I was trying to frame in my head a question I wanted to ask you because, you know, we know that people get sick, children get sick. But at what point would you say you have a sickly child versus a child who just gets sick?
I think that, you know, for parents recently, they have really been experiencing what they think is having a sickly child. So I have heard non-stop concerns from parents from, I would have to say, around October last year, right through to now, that, you know, my child has been sick all the time. As soon as I go back out to school, 2-3 days later, I hear the dreaded sniffle, and then my child is out again with yet another cold. But the reality is that children can be expected to get colds and illnesses 7 or 8 times a year, and in some cases, up to 12 times a year would actually be considered normal. And then when you take a couple of weeks to recover from each event, and sometimes children can take as long as 6 weeks to recover from some illnesses, for example, like RSV, they can literally be sick for most of the year and still be considered to have a normal immune system. So I would say that the vast majority of children are not actually sickly, they're just sick all the time, which is a little bit different.
It sounds as though you're saying to me a cold a month, 12 times a year on average, a cold a month, and I'm not supposed to be concerned about this? So what's causing that rate? You say it's normal, but what causes that rate to happen 12 times a year?
Yes, I mean, typically 7 to 8, but yes, up to 12 is definitely quite normal. And we are seeing this because, of course, viruses circulate usually in a seasonal fashion. And so you can reliably expect your little one to come home with the sniffles or with the ear pain or with the vomiting and diarrhea or the eye infection. You can reliably expect that to happen with great regularity, especially when they're quite young. You know, when they're in that toddler stage and they're touching everything and they're making sure to greet their little friend who comes to preschool with the runny nose, they make sure to greet them first. Then you can be sure that they're going to be home a lot with illnesses. And it's a rite of passage that every parent dreads, unfortunately.
You're so right on that score. You know, and that's well, because I could well imagine the discomfort, because just as soon as you got the nose dry, it begins to run again. The child has a cold. And so what do you do as a parent? How do you reduce that number, or is it something you grow out of?
Well, the first things parents do when they hear a sniffle is hold their head in their hands because they know what's coming next, because they can't believe it's happening yet again. But, you know, it's really impossible to prevent all of these illnesses. And, you know, sometimes parents think, you know, if I perhaps give my child this or give them this vitamin, then, you know, this will prevent this from happening. The reality is that there is not much that you can do to prevent this from happening. If you kept your child at home for 4 years and sent them out to school and into society for the first time, they'll get all those illnesses at 4 years. If you send them to preschool or daycare at a year of age, they're going to get all those illnesses at a year of age. So it's not a matter of if, it really is a matter of when they're going to be exposed to all of these things. But it's important to have perspective. It's not all a bad thing. You're training your child's immune systems, and this is why you are less likely to have these infections as an adult, although your children will certainly refresh your immune system's memory very often by bringing them directly to you.
You got that right. And so, you know, okay, so allow your children to be exposed because it helps to build the immune system when they fight off these opportunistic viruses and the like. But what can one do to fortify that immune system so that as they fight these viruses that are all over the place, that they are strong enough to resist them?
There are 2 big things that parents can actually do, which have been proven scientifically to reduce the risk of infections. The number one is free, which is breastfeeding. So breastfeeding, especially for children who are 6 months and less, is a way that you can protect your children from viruses, especially those that cause respiratory illnesses like the cold, and those that cause gastrointestinal illnesses like gastro. So breastfeeding confers antibodies. So the mom literally will pass antibodies which fight infections through the breast milk to baby, and really there's a major reduction in those types of illnesses, but that applies to really young children in particular. Over the age of 6 months, not so much. Now, the second thing that's been scientifically proven, which makes a big difference, is to vaccinate your child. So a lot of the illnesses that we used to see, we don't see them circulating anywhere near as much because of the effectiveness of the vaccination campaigns that have been here in this country and many others. For example, one of the common vaccines that is given is called pneumococcus, and it protects your children against 13 different types of streptococcus that cause ear infections, sinus infections, pneumonia, and meningitis. So certainly making sure that your child is up to date with vaccinations, including the flu vaccine and the COVID vaccine, really can make an impact on the number of illnesses that your child has every year.
You know, at this time, with all the dust in the air as well, the sinuses are going to be impacted, the noses will run and the like. And you want to flood your children with vitamin C. You know, it's like you just said, come on, whether you get the orange or I'm going to plop that thing in the water, let it fizzy and dissolve, and you drink that because you have to boost the system. Is that a fair response to my concern?
It's so common that parents will reach for that vitamin C, but it really has not been proven to have the impact that we all hope that it will. And I know that will surprise many people. It won't hurt your child, but it's very unlikely to actually make the difference that we would like. There have been some studies that suggest the possibility that children who are low in vitamin D may be more likely to get certain illnesses, but it is very unclear supplementing with vitamin D actually helps. So at this point in time, no, none of those vitamin supplements clearly will make a difference. Sorry, parents.
Put them in the sun. Let them get some natural vitamin D. Fair enough, I'll do that.
Indeed.
But there are other use of antibiotics that are available across the shelves that we want to reach for as well. Is that a safe thing to do with the children as well?
I always tell parents that your child's cold will get better in a week with antibiotics, but without antibiotics, it'll get better in 7 days. So in other words, it really makes no impact whatsoever, right? So antibiotics only protect against bacteria. They don't protect against viruses. Giving antibiotics will not be helpful if you are having the cold and those other common illnesses, including ear infections, that are generally caused by viruses. And in fact, they can do more harm than good. They can cause the development of resistant bugs that are very hard to treat, that we are definitely seeing here in Barbados. They can have side effects like diarrhea. They can cause thrush. And they can also cause allergies in the children. So unless it is really necessary, antibiotics are seldom helpful in the types of common childhood illnesses that we do see.
You gave us a marker just now, a week or 7 days. And so after 7 days, and I do not see the cessation in the snot, or that kind of relief that the child should have, should I be concerned?
Not necessarily. Most viral illnesses can take a week or two to settle down, and in some cases even longer, which is very frustrating. But your child's immune system is generally really well up to the task, and just having lots of colds doesn't mean that anything is wrong with your immune system. But there can be other red flags that suggest that something might indeed be wrong with your child's immune system. Although it is really very uncommon, there are certain things that you should look for. For example, if your child has many ear infections in a year, and I don't mean 1 or 2, I mean like 8 or more ear infections in a year. If your child always ends up in hospital whenever they have an illness, they always need IV antibiotics, they get lots of episodes of pneumonia or sinus infections that require treatment with antibiotics. Or if they have deep-seated infections like abscesses in the skin or in strange locations like the liver or spleen, then you really could be dealing with something unusual. And if there's a family member who has an immunodeficiency, which is where the immune system does not function well, those things can run in the family, and then you really might need to be concerned and get more information.
Not all children are equal. There are children who are born with different abilities and also different disabilities. And so when the child I'll use the Down syndrome, for instance, as you know, I would know. When that child presents with a cold, how do you manage that? Because it has to be treated differently from the child who does not have that condition.
That's very true, and I'm glad you brought it up because, for example, in the situation where children have Down syndrome, they have what we call a small mid-face, which is this part of the face here is much smaller than you would normally expect. And so they, at baseline, even when they don't have a cold, they may sound very congested, they may have mouth breathing, their tongue tends to be larger, and so they're going to be much more uncomfortable when they have a certain viral infections. They're more prone to having ear infections, and so they're more prone to have complications from those. So you have to be more vigilant in making sure that children, for example, who have Down syndrome and they have colds and ear infections, you have to be more vigilant because they may respond differently. And in some cases of children with certain conditions, they may actually become sicker. So you have to know your child, and you need to know if your child has an underlying condition that would make them more prone to having severe complications of things that other children would not have difficulty with. So that's absolutely true.
So in knowing your child, you don't treat the child normally. You have to pay a little closer attention and know when you have to move faster to have other forms of intervention if necessary. Now the child going to bed, you know, the child goes in the bath, it has a shower, it comes out all dripping wet and dives into bed to sleep. And you think, dry that hair, especially girls. You know, would that be a concern as a precursor to getting a cold, catching a cold?
Well, none of the grandmothers are going to like me for saying this, but the truth is that has no connection or bearing on coming down with a viral illness.
Okay.
Viral illnesses are caused by viruses, and it's not because you got wet by the rain in the sea, or because you got your hair wet before you went to bed. So feel free, parents, to let your child go to sleep with the hair a little wet. It won't hurt. It really won't.
It might help the hair grow. Just kidding. Just kidding, indeed. You know, but certainly when your child has a cold, expect your child to have a cold almost like once a month, expect to have your child to have a cold when the child goes out into interacting with other people in the community, because it helps to boost the immune system. There's little one can do in terms by way of antibiotics to mitigate against that. You just treat it as it happens and it goes, and allow the child to have some strong doses of vitamin D, natural sunlight. That will help to manage it as well. If your child has a special condition, be very, very vigilant and move faster for some intervention if absolutely necessary. I think I've covered everything we talked about today, right?
Yes. Yes, absolutely.
Dr. Bertrand, as always, thank you so much. You've shared quite a lot with us, and I'm looking forward to seeing you again next week if it be God's will. Thank you.
Thank you. Thanks for having me, Pearson.
You're very welcome indeed. We're coming back with more on Morning Barbados in just a moment.
While you go about your business, we go about our business, and that is gathering the news. Stay up to date at CBC News Barbados on Facebook, Instagram and Twitter. Get news update on radio throughout the day. And join us for the CBC News Night at 7 every night. CBC News team is on the job and bringing you the news.
There is a saying, you can find a Bajan anywhere. Are you a Bajan living abroad? Or do you know of one who has migrated to another country? Well, we at Mornin Barbados would love to have you or them on our Bajan Affair segment. Share your amazing stories, experiences, and how you have adapted to a new culture. Send us an email to morninbarbados@cbc.bb. And together we will travel the world.
Enjoy movies.
Morning, morning, morning. Good morning. Good morning to you.
21 minutes now to go to 8 o'clock. We meet now from Belize, a young Belizean photorealism artist. What's that? His name is Keon Griffith. Keon, good morning to you.
Good morning. Good morning. Thank you for having me. It's truly
You're
a
very
pleasure being
welcome.
here.
You're very welcome. Now I'm curious about your last name, Griffith. We have Griffiths in Barbados as well. Any connection to Barbados?
I don't think so. I don't think so.
Because it's just so ironic that your father's name is George Griffith, and your mother's name is Yvette Messiah. Again, Bajan names. But I'm sure we can all research the history and see what we can discover there. But as a photorealism artist, what is that?
It's like the name implies, it's just painting from a photo, like bringing a photo to a canvas. Keeping it as real as you can get.
So, explain how that works then. We could understand an artist, easel, you have your material on which you're working, you have your paintbrush and so forth. Is that typically what you do?
Yeah, basically, it's just that some artists paint out their heads from imagination. I paint from a photo.
You paint from a photo. And so how long have you been doing this now?
I've been painting for 10 years professionally now, going on my 11th year this year.
So doing it as a profession, is this your means of income?
Yes, I'm a full-time artist. I'm very blessed to have a successful career doing just what I love. It's from passion.
But it didn't start that way. You had your beginnings, your early steps were a little bit rocky, did it?
Of course, it is. It's for an artist, it's always hard getting in the door. But I think once you're in, it's smooth sailing from there.
So how was it for you though? What was that first opportunity when the door opened and you saw the way in? What happened? What was that? Do you recall?
To be honest, I'm still trying to kick down that door, but each year goes by and with consistency, it gets better and it gets better. Belize is a small place, just like Barbados, so it's not that difficult. You just got to do good work and your work will speak for itself, and that's what I try to do. I try to produce the best that I could, each painting after another, and your work will get noticed. I'm doing something right because I'm here with you guys, and this is truly something.
You're very welcome. Now, photorealism. So therefore, you work from a photograph. So a photograph you have, you look at it and you copy, so to speak, that photograph onto the canvas, and to make it as realistic as possible, as close to the photograph as possible. Am I reading the process correctly?
Yeah, you definitely got that right. It takes some imagination because you need to identify what you want to paint. What is your subject matter, and what inspires you? And being from Belize, that is my basis. That is what I'm trying to show to the world. I'm trying to show our local scenes, our rainforests, our cultures, our people, things that we do here, that make my painting unique. So it's from a photo, but it also has the artistic element to it.
Wow, these are stunning pieces of work, and these are all painted pieces. These are not just photographs you're seeing, folks. This is what he's been able to paint from the photograph and to make it look so real. So are you exhibiting anywhere across Belize or across the world at the moment?
And that's the thing. I've been able to have a pretty successful career, and I have not have an exhibition as yet, because I'm trying to, like I said, I'm painting for 10 years, and I'm trying to make sure that the talent is there solidly, without a doubt, before I try to expand and do an exhibit. But that's in the plan this year. This year, it's crazy because this year is my year that I'm trying to get exposure. So to get this this invite to be here is like the universe is just aligning itself, you know.
Yeah. And so when Belizeans see your work, they must be so immensely proud of you and proud of the work that you've been doing.
They are. Recently, I've gained a lot of attention from a mural that I recently did. I'm more of an introvert. I try to keep my paintings as bold and as lifelike as possible so that it can speak for itself. I'm not the type to go out there and sell my paintings. I try to make my painting sell itself, but being there working on that mural, I'm forced to be outside, and that's where a lot of people really notice my work and my talent, and it has opened a lot of doors for me since I did that mural, and it's just been up from there. So yeah, my country is very proud, but art is like for the 5%. It has its price. So it's not a lot of people that gravitate towards art, but the ones that do, they appreciate it.
You know, our commenters on our social media are saying, wow, talent indeed galore coming from you. And that's fantastic. But what I like is that you have your passion for what to do, but you've decided you're going to do formal education in art as well. Talk to me a little bit about that decision, and where did you go to study further what your craft?
Okay. So, like I said, before I get to that, I started drawing because my father was an artist. He drew cartoons for the newspaper, so he opened my eyes to paint, to drawing, so I started to draw. In high school, the arts teacher saw me drawing in class and he recommended me taking arts. He opened my eye to painting. So I get into painting from high school. I further it at the sixth form level, at the college level, where I got my associate's degree in fine arts. And then it's just like the universe aligning again. My former high school teacher was going on study leave, so he asked me if I can fill in for him if I don't mind. So I started teaching at my alma mater for 1 year because I didn't want to be strictly a teacher because it was going to limit my abilities of being a full-time artist. So I stepped away from the classroom, and I do love teaching, so I started an event that called Paint Night, where it's like a social event where people come and dance to music, they paint, they drink, while I'm instructing them. So it's like a lesson more in a social setting.
Yes.
I love teaching. I would definitely revisit teaching, but more later down in my career when I feel like I've done enough as an artist.
You've done for us a lot as an artist already. Imagine, you think you still have more to be able to accomplish. And again, our social media commenters are really, really proud of the work that you've been able to deliver so far. And so, you know, when you step back for just a moment and look at your work, you know, sometimes we like to criticize and critique our work so harshly. Do you do that often? And if you do, why do you do that?
You have to, because there's always room for improvement. You know, so you have to be your harshest or your toughest critic. It's just something in me that just sparks my full capacity and my best, you know. So I don't look at that artwork as like, oh, I'm comfortable here, you know. I always say I paint to impress other artists, not to impress just regular people, because regular people will look at it and be like, oh, that's good, but other artists that does it too will look at it more through a critical. So once you impress other artists, then you know you're on the right track.
You're quite right there. You know you're on the right track indeed. And so sometimes there are people who commercialize their work through whether it's miniatures and the like, and they put it out for sale. Have you ever thought of doing that, the work that you do, making it smaller and package it in such a way that people can purchase and go?
No, definitely. I get that idea from, like I said, being on that mural. The mural was at the tourist village here. And there's a lot of tourists that come off that cruise ship that ask, do you have smaller works? Do you have work that I can take back on a cruise ship? And I was like, no, I do large scale work. So now that the mural is finished and I'm settled and I'm back in my studio, that is one of the things that I will tackle on this venture. Also prints. Like I said, I haven't had an exhibition because I'm unable to keep a full body of paintings, so I'm trying to sell prints so I can hold the original and I can do an exhibition.
Yeah, this is so good. I like your leap of faith because you believe in yourself, you believe in your skill, and you've developed your own business to make it happen. Are you comfortable with the decision to make it happen through what you do?
I'm very comfortable. I pray a lot. I'm a true believer that there's a higher power that's guiding me through this journey, and I really believe that this is my purpose on this earth. And not to sound conceited, but every venture I take in this art field or this art industry has been a successful one.
Wonderful.
And each one that I tackle gave me more confidence and more confidence to do more. And I have a lot of things planned for this year. To just showcase my talent, and that's the main thing. Like, it's not for the money, it's not for the recognition. I'm more of an introvert kind of guy. It's just about me producing the best artwork that I can, growing after each paint.
I just love your philosophy. It is fantastic. Keon, you are immensely talented. And I'm telling you, the number of people who are watching us from all over the world who are already commenting on our social media tells us that they are wowed by your work. I know you said that one of your aims eventually is to be able to get them into print so that you can retain your copies for your own exhibitions later on. And we can't wait to see when that happens indeed. I hope that your business model is such that it sustains you and that other people can truly benefit from your craft. You have quite a skill, one that all of us envy, because if only we could, but you can, and we're very proud to have met you this morning. Keon Griffith of Belize, a photorealism artist, thank you so much for joining us. I wish you the very best in all of your future endeavors. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you again. It's truly an honor being here. I'm very grateful for this opportunity, and I wish you all the best.
Our pleasure, and you as well. Thank you so much. There he goes. Keon Griffith is his name. Real Bajan name, and he doesn't know, as we don't, whether or not he has any Bajan connections, but his parents also have those Bajan sounding names. There has to be a connection. Let's hope that he discovers it. And someone can clarify it for us as well if you think you do know him and his family. We'll take a break right here. We're coming back with more in just a moment.
Morning, morning, good morning.
Enjoy movies, soaps, drama, comedy, inspiration, education, music, and more. You get it all when you get MCTV, because MCTV gives you more.
Some ask, what makes Barbados so special? We at Mornin Barbados say it's you, our exceptional youth. You are talented, resilient, and inspirational. You are the epitome of the Barbadian spirit, testing the boundaries of your creativity. If you are an entrepreneur, artist, baker, designer, author, or have done anything you think should be highlighted, email us at morninbarbados@cbc.bb. Let us show the world our exceptional Bajan youth.
Books open your heart, your mind, and your soul. They are educational, entertaining, inspiring, and motivating. Are you an author of a recent book you want to share? then Mornin Barbados would love to feature your book in our The Next Chapter segment. Send us an email to morninbarbados@cbc.bb. That's morning without the G. Come and let us turn those pages together.
Because you love English Premier League, MCTV has got it back. Now you can watch all the games of the English Premier League plus UEFA and NFL on MCTV. Current customers can upgrade to Matchback Extra at just $23. Call MCTV today at 228-6288 to upgrade or come in and sign up for a new service. Football fans, let MCTV get you back in the game.
While you go about your business, we go about our business, and that is gathering the news. Stay up to date at CBC News Barbados on Facebook, Instagram and Twitter. Get news update on radio throughout the day. And join us for the CBC News Night at 7 every night. CBC News team is on the job and bringing you the news.
Morning, morning, morning. Good morning. Good morning to you.
You know, Bajans are popping up just about everywhere, and they're doing very well indeed. As a matter of fact, just recently for the BBC News Awards, a Barbadian performed. Yes, indeed. The name is Ro Ro. Let's take a look at this one, the production, and it's called Mr. Right.
Here comes Mr. Right, all dressed in white, to save the day and change my ways. That horse is high, and I don't ride. I don't do nice guys. I'm stressing these players out all day, all day, all day, all day, all day. Stressing these players out. Where you wanna go? Be not home, not to the movies. No sir, all I wanna do is eat and take pics for the gram on fleek. She hungry and I'm rude. Wise guy, I'm too smooth. I'll rule you. No second guessing, I'm problems. But try to play me, yeah, like that. Once you leave, I won't text back. Got time for my fine. Hey, Prince Charming, I'm robbing, just leave me. I'm the real deal. Here comes Mr. Right, all dressed in white, to save the day and change my ways. That horse is high, and I don't ride. I don't do nice guys. I'm stressing these players out all day, all day, all day, all day, all day. Stressing these players out. You was trying to save me. I be sending boys on a daily. I don't play with toys, I just up and leave. I don't make noise, I just quietly creep and sleep and love who I wanna with no extra drama. But try to play me, yeah, like that. Once you leave, I won't text back. Got time for my fine. Hey, Prince Charming, I'm a Robin, just leave me. I'm the real deal. Here comes Mr. Right, all dressed in white, to save the day and change my ways. That horse is high, and I don't ride. I don't do nice guys. I'm stressing these players out all day, all day, all day, all day, all day. Stressing these players out. Dear, dear, my babe, I like you too. Dear, dear, my babe.
Morning, morning, morning. Good morning. Good morning to you.
While you go about your business, we go about our business, and that is gathering the news. Stay up to date at CBC News Barbados on Facebook, Instagram and Twitter. Get news update on radio throughout the day. And join us for the CBC News Night at 7 every night. CBC News team is on the job and bringing you the news.
There is a saying, you can find a Bajan anywhere. Are you a Bajan living abroad? Or do you know of one who has migrated to another country? Well, we at Mornin Barbados would love to have you or them on our Bajan Afar segment. Share your amazing stories, experiences, and how you have adapted to a new culture. Send us an email to morninbarbados@cbc.vb. And together we will travel the world.
Enjoy movie.
Morning, morning, morning. Good morning. Good morning to you.
Well, that does it for us today. Thank you so much for joining us. We want to thank our producer, Nadia Foster, Technical Director, Roel Ford, Sound Engineer, Christopher Blenman, and at Master Control has been Tamisha Green and Pearson Bowen. For each of them, to all of you, we say thank you. We look forward to seeing you again tomorrow. Take care. Bye-bye.
Wake up, wake up, wake up, wake up. Barbados, get up. Good morning.